Tennessee football and looking ahead to the upcoming college football season. And within that is recruiting, like the Carnell Tate news. And, okay, what's the latest now with NIL? Like, we had a big NIL period in late spring, that April to May period probably. And then baseball kind of took over. So that took so much weight. And now we're kind of back to, okay, where do things stand? What happened with Carnell Tate? How did Ohio State beat out Tennessee? You have some prospects that are coming in town this weekend that really matter for Tennessee in this class. So what Tennessee is literally doing, what the coaches are focusing on for the most part in terms of recruiting, we bring that back to the radio show so that we jokingly call it list season. So you have like your top quarterbacks. Like there was the quarterback room conversation from CBS. We kind of carried that over to the show. And Jesse Simonton of On3 to begin the week, he had his SEC coach rankings. And Jason Swain and I actually largely agreed with everything. Like we might have moved one coach, one spot.
Where do you have Heupel?
Or back. He had Josh Heupel number 9. And now a lot of Tennessee fans disagreed, which we expected. Mike Leach was one spot ahead. But the way we looked at it was simply, well, Leach is just so much more accomplished. Like part of the challenge of those lists is you have some coaches like Leach or Mark Stoops, who was number 5, who have just coached so many more games.
Right.
And Josh Heupel has coached for 4 seasons as a head coach, and Sam Pittman has been a head coach for 2 seasons. So, Lane's tricky because his resume is not as impressive as maybe he's thought of, but his most recent season was really good at Ole Miss. So a funny thing there is that our opinion was about the same in that, well, the list is fair. And if Josh Heupel wins more, he's going to move up. And if he doesn't, he'll stay the same. And Billy Napier's number 11, same for him. If he wins, he'll move up. If not, he'll get fired. So, we didn't have probably a great radio take to get people fired up, but we did share the link on social media. And then people were fired up and said, no, Heupel's too low and Leach stinks and Mark Stoops is no good. So, we knew that fans would have attention on that. So I've gone a long way in the answer to your question, but things like that, like trying to compare coaches or teams or position groups. And then if a story pops up and also trying to have good guests. We had Josiah Jordan James on last week and he was terrific. And Ron Slade's going to come on this week. And Zach Azani, who used to coach Tennessee's wide receivers now with the Broncos, told some good recruiting stories. So trying to have some good big picture conversation as well.
There you go. I think the main thing was just making sure that Heupel was above Shane Beamer in that list.
One spot ahead. Yeah. So, and we made sure to point that out is that, they split the award for.
Which was just the silliest thing. And I told my fiance about it where I was like.
In the conversation,
I was so, it was like, there was 2 moments for Tennessee football that ended where I'm like, why am I irrationally mad about this? Like, this is the dumbest thing to be in a bad mood about for the rest of the day. It was the Purdue loss at the goal line, where I'm like, it's a ball game. It doesn't matter. Why do I care? Like, why do I care what happened here? Just, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it does not matter. And then the other one was just sharing the Steve Spurrier award with Shane Beamer, where it's like, I was in the building. The game was over in 5 minutes. Like 5 minutes, it was over. Like Heupel stepped on their neck immediately, and that game was over. It's like, I understand that Beamer finished hot, but like, ultimately, the whole point is like, we actually have a head-to-head to point to here. We have one. It's right there.
Right. Yeah, now, and I don't disagree with what you said, and I know your opinion is shared by so many people, and I really don't like split awards for the most part. I say that having just not that long ago said I would have split the MVP in the NFL last year. I would have split it between Rodgers and Brady. So I say I don't like splitting awards, and I just recommended the NFL split an award a few months ago. But the defense would be, yes, Tennessee easily won. I mean, they crushed South Carolina head-to-head. South Carolina preseason, their win total was like 4. So to go 6-6 and then win the bowl game and win 7 games, it wasn't exactly even going into the year in terms of what the expectations were. And South Carolina's having to take their GA and put him back onto the roster. So there were some real challenges that Beamer inherited. All that's the defense of the decision. If they said, "Hey, Josh, what should we do?" I would have said, "Give it to Josh Heupel."
Yeah, but that was fun. That was probably my favorite game to be in the building for. I think it.
They're just rolling. South Carolina gets on the board when they're already down so big, and the celebration on the sideline.
Oh my God,
that gave Tennessee fans something to mock as well.
But we all saw it. We were pointing at it. We're like, what are they doing? Like that's the other thing. It's like you miss in the press box where you're like over there and everyone, like someone catches it and what's going on. And there was a South Carolina player who was celebrating a sack when you're down 28. And it's like, what are you doing? Like this is going to get progressively worse. But that was a fun one. The most memorable though for me, I was still the Pitt one, just because The Pitt game was absurd, and the air being let out of the building for a Joe Milton overthrow, I will tell you, is unlike anything else.
Right?
I've never experienced anything like that, where the crowd is all collectively just like, it's unbelievable to see his arm from where, like, if you're up close and you see it and you see him get time and unleash that cannon, you're like, this guy should be the best quarterback in college football. You see it, and then it's just 20 yards out of the end zone, and people are just like, they just it's one of the wildest things. So I will never forget that particular game, just because the Milton experience was unlike anything I've ever seen.